Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leportee's special episode where we interview someone from the industry, Mirjam. Who is it this time?
It is Yvonne Heß. I am so excited to have Yvonne here today. Yvonne, I started looking how I could make an introduction of her, and I look at her CV and I was like, wow. So for me, my summary is pretty much a badass finance woman. So this is my quick summary about Yvonne. Um, Yvonne, I know you have learned your basics at the big banks of Germany, and then you grow into leasing at Columbus. And I mean, the reason why we know each other is because we both worked at NUMA, right? But I would love for you to maybe expand a little bit on yeah, your career path and where you are at today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me. Um, let's step in. I came to the bank by accident because I never was interested to work in a bank or become a banker or something like this. And then I studied business administrations, and there was a new deep knowledge um, branch. They are called Finanzdienstleistung. In English, it's financial industry services. And so I started to study that, and I found, oh, it's interesting. Banking, it's not only credits, foreign exchange, bank transfer, standing orders, or credit cards. It's a little bit more. Yeah, and then I worked more or less 10 years at UniCredit Group and a saving bank here in Germany. And then I changed to the leasing side of the financial industry, moved to the south of Germany, did there a lot of interesting things in the startup branch. And then I think it was 5 years ago, I decided to change the sides. And as my colleagues told me, moved on the good side of power to become a client. I think it's now almost 2 years ago when we meet at NUMA. I was working there as a director of structured finance, and you were doing the full development there. So we had a lot of things in common, and it was very nice. And now we are forces both new jobs and things, and so we are looking forward. And yeah, this is to shorten up my summary. And everybody is shocked when I told them that there are still less women in financing sector.
So shocked.
Yeah,
So shocked. Oh my God. We had no idea. But then, right, I mean, we know each other personally, but I think if somebody meets you, I think there's a very good reason why you're doing so well in that world. I think if you want to know the truth, you ask Yvonne and she will tell you straight out. So
yeah, 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 something like this. Everybody was asking me, Yvonne, when you start your career, what was the first thing you learned? And I told everybody, this fucking elevator pitch. Because when you go to a client, meet new persons, you only have 1 minute for your first interaction, and so you work it out on a mirror. And
so
when
you did?
yeah, I do it still. Or if I have to do an interview or something like this, I still train it already, and I will train it, I think, for the rest of my life. um, I had a catch up on a fair, and somebody told me, and now it's your time, elevator pitch, 20 seconds. And I told him, hey, I'm not trained for 20 seconds. I always need 1 minute. And then he was so totally shocked and looked at me straight. To, why you are telling me this? And I will run out of time, so I mentioned it up front.
Managing expectations, right? Very important in the finance sector, I think.
Yeah. Everybody is always so shocked, or when you try to explain your business model. People always explain, yeah, we are selling clothes or something by this. No, what the point which makes you unique? What's
Mm,
your USP? And a lot of
mm.
people are not able to describe it.
So
Um,
Yvonne,
yeah.
what would be your USP?
Oh, uh, this is something you will both love. I know you will love it and love. So I started in the financial sector in the private banking branch where a lot of women worked, and then I changed in the commercial part. And then I learned you have to be acting like a woman, but inside you have to be like a man because otherwise it will not work. So I learned to pretend a lot. And somebody called me, "You're a pretender." And when this I heard the first time, I was saying, "Hey, what do you mean with pretender?" Yeah, you can put a mirror in front of your partner, so he feels comfortable, he feels very well done, and all this stuff. And then I told them, okay, but I think to write in my LinkedIn job description, pretender will not work. And then somebody told me, we call it number crushers, number crusher in financial sectors.
Number crusher. So, okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm sure Mish would be interested as well, how it is to act like a woman and like a man pretty much at the same time. I think you said it. Is that connected? Did I understand correctly? Does that have to do with the pretending or showing what you
Yeah,
can, or what would you say? What would you determine this specifically about male and female traits?
yeah. You have to think of that the banking industry is more a male sector. So the wordings are very tough. The people are not very nice in the communicated. They are very straightforward. So sometimes they push you over an edge and you think, I have done nothing. I've done nothing. So why are you treating me so worse? But this is totally normal. And I think you have to get things out of your mind and you clear your mind. But when you are a woman and you are in these bank meetings, everybody is taking care of, hopefully she's not getting crying, or as she has to go home because she has to do the household and this stuff, so we cannot rush out of time. So and
Wow.
therefore it's always interesting, you always the timekeeper in these meetings, because when you're the only female person in these rounds, you structure the gender and you keep the timeline.
You can.
And this
That's
is this is quite interesting because when males are speaking together, they crush every time the timelines. They don't care about the timelines or deadlines. They don't care. But if you have a woman included, everybody becomes okay. So it would be perfect if we ready 10 minutes before. So
Mish, what do you
everybody,
think?
yeah.
Mish,
So
you are timekeeper in this podcast. So would you like to
I
like
was thinking,
weigh in?
should I just outsource it to you, Miriam, entirely? I mean, in fact,
We literally agreed before we started this podcast that Mish will be the timekeeper.
well, while I am maybe officially, but actually you're the one who always like, no, 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 it's not 1 hour. We're gonna do 30 minutes, and I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do 30 minutes. So, I can't say if I've never really I tend to think of myself as someone who likes to keep the time, but I don't know if I never really compared to if we have a meeting with with a female member or not, how that works. I haven't noticed personally. So I mean, but it's a very interesting insight. I'll try to pay attention to that next time when we have a dudes only meeting or a mix maybe. See how it works.
yeah, I
Whatever
have
they're able
an eye on it. It's quite interesting. And the next issue in our industry, you have to become a storyteller,
to.
because in the financial industry, it's all about storytelling. And sometimes I feel like I'm telling a fairy tale or something like this, because you are the translator from client to back office. And this is quite interesting. So you always have to get a confidence that you understand your client in a correct way. And this is when I always say, hey, make your strategy, make your business model description as detailed as possible, and then figure out what's your strategy. Mirjam, you think of when we talked of last time about your personal projects and all this stuff, and I told you you have to feel comfortable with the strategy. There are so many ways to do it, but you have to feel comfortable and well with this. And this is the first thing you should find out. And then everything comes in the right way and you find your ways. And as I told Misha last time, Misha, what's your opinion? And don't look so bad because we don't want to hurt you. And he was telling me, well, I always look so.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we were discussing the financial model of a
Ah,
certain
yes.
project, right? And then yeah, I have a look that I just generally have. It's a default look. So, but jumping on that topic though, right? Because in my head, financial world, right? The stereotype is it's numbers driven, it's fact driven, but you're telling at the same time there's a lot of storytelling behind it. So, is it like a spectrum, right? When you maybe go too far to the story mode. Well, I think me and Miriam had that a few times. And is it clear when you cross that line, or do you think generally just want to go to the story mode because you obviously can show the facts, and then you can add the top, the sort of the element of trying to project the experience, trying to make it more emotional, connect to whoever the other side is the person, right? Maybe they might have certain hobbies or lifestyles that you want to maybe jump on to also tell that story, and so you try to dilute the facts in that. Would you say that's a challenge usually, or?
This depends on the person you speak to. When we are thinking about finding equity investors, this is a personal relationship. So it's all about storytelling and then about scaling your model. So when you talk to a person, you ask for money, for his private money. For example, your dad. So it's more about that. I have a good idea. I want to convince you about the idea. This we're doing better than the rest of the world, and this is why we become successful. So in these parts, the emotions are more important. When you have become, yeah, let's say proof of concept. So we're talking about 3 to 5 years old of a company. Then it's less about storytelling. It's more about the figures and the financials. But then you have to be storytelling about your project. For example, if you open a new hotel, so you have to describe your banker or your financial partners. Hey, this reason is super. The hotel will be the newest ever. We will have blue lighted showers or whatever. And this is the reason why we will get €5 a night more than anybody else in this region. So so the storytelling is changing. But in the beginning, it's all about storytelling about ideas. And this is also when you meet a financial partner for the first time. You will catch him by emotions and not with figures.
So effectively, when you have the past, that's all about facts. It's all about numbers, and when you go into the future, you try to fill that space with a lot of storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And and what's the line? Like, right? I like the idea that you said, speak to VC like he's your dad, kind of, or your mom. Um, right? That you tell about your dream and where you want to go. But and I right, like I think we're in hospitality, you guys will know that. So the justification of an ADR and occupancy, you always can, yes, you have data, but a lot of it is also assumptions. And right, do you, if you go, let's say you go speak to a VC, do you rather overestimate your ADR if you have a good justification for it and occupancy, or do you rather go in, okay, this is our pessimistic approach, um, this is what we're gonna do for sure, and the rest you can dream of, right? Like, which one would you say is it better?
I would always start with the normal business case. And then I would swip in my last sentence, and we have a minimum. This is our worst case scenario where we can still survive, so that your VCs or PEs get a good feeling because you don't have a written history. So they cannot say, hey, this you have got for sure, or you have no recap system. Think about all these things like Fin Auto, where you have receivable income for the next 12 or 24 months. This you will not have in this region. So you have to make it comfortable. And in your branch or in our branch, in the hospitality branch, it's quite important to explain the investors how you sell your beds.
Mm,
And this
yeah.
is all about. And for example, I had the honor to stay one night in a Mandarin Oriental hotel. So it's a little bit overall. Everybody's running around you. Is there something we can do it for you? Do you feel well? So it's like a bubble. Yeah, but you pay more than 500 euros a night. So yeah, so it's what you are searching. And if you ask me, when I go on a business travel, I like to have a good Wi-Fi in my room to work. I like to have a clean shower. I would say cleanness is the most important thing for me because I traveled a lot and I see awful things in the past, and therefore I think these are the issues you should talk about when we think about. One of my friends was traveling to Spain more than 1 year, and he was using only hostels, and he told me he had hostels from like heaven till to hell. And he told me about a hostel which he told me, hey, I feel I'm direct in hell. Don't cross any borders, you go straight to hell. And I told him, what happened? And he told me the mattresses were only 5 centimeters thin. The showers were dirty. And he told me, don't ask me for the rest of the toilets. It was not usable. And he told me, and one of the guy was staying there and tell me, hey, in this region of Spain, this is one of the best. And you think, fuck, should I take some vaccination extra to be safe here? And this is quite interesting. And therefore, it's something of your personal purpose. And as I explained, when you're talking to a VC, talk about how you sell your beds, because it's not only to do a channel on booking.com or Airbnb. It's also about the person who brings the soul into such a house. And it's all about the people because people make the business and not the IT or the infrastructure.
Mm, yeah. I mean, that's what I always find so interesting, right? You were on both sides of the business, and I think you look at it also. Let's say we're going to speak about loans now, how businesses can get loans in that sense. How, as a banker, do you assess a business model that you have no idea of, for
Yeah,
example?
yeah.
How
This
do
is
you do that?
if you have no idea of the business model, you will not do the loan.
Mm,
Uh,
okay.
this is so, and this is when you speak to a banker. First you have to explain your model, and you have to find out, does this people understands me? So ask question. It's always quite easy if you ask him, okay, I'm not sure if I explained it in a way you understand it. Maybe you summarize what you understand, and then I step in and make it clearer for you. This helps a lot. Um,
Okay.
and and sometimes I always like to scratch business models.
What does that
Um,
mean?
when people work with pictures, a picture explains more than 1,000 words. So if you don't have a house already open where you can go through, put pictures in your presentation so that the people get a look and feel an impression, and take them in their mind hotel with you. For example, if you see here our bedrooms, you see these are 6 beds. The difference to others is that we have beds on the floor. You don't have to climb up, or something like this, so that the banker feels, okay, I go through this house now, I can feel it, I get an impression. This is quite important.
You know, that just goes so much against the idea that my basic idea of a banker is. because my idea was always like, oh, you show him the Excel and he just wants to see the number, or she doesn't care about the way your hostel look. The numbers need to be right. And honestly, the fact that you're saying that bankers love pictures, that just makes my life better.
Um,
Maybe it's just so. Misha always looks at me. He's like, "You're why
I have a
this is
story
so clear."
from the past. It was a story my former boss told me. I think in my second week, he told me, yeah, his first financing project in North Rhine-Westphalia was a film production company. And I told him, okay, I did not know that Cologne or Düsseldorf were very famous for movies or something like this. And then he told me, yeah, this I also thought also, and we did it. We did the productions cost and full stuff. And in the end, we received the DVD of the film. And I told him, and was the movie very successful? And he told me, yeah, Yvonne, it was very successful. But the production company called private. And I told him, okay, never heard about this company. How could this movie be successful? And he told me, yeah, it's for adults only. And we should have asked it more carefully in the beginning.
Oh. That was his first. That was his first project.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he
God.
told me, and this is why I always tell you, get an understanding of what your clients are doing, because we were thinking, okay, this is a movie production company.
Yeah.
What movie could this be? So we thought about cinema, television, video clips, and then we received it. And he told me, you'll never forget the title. But he told me, hey, it was so much lessons learned for him, and this is why he's now so keen on to understand.
So he's sharing the learning now. That's really good.
And these are some things you should consider. I always say, change the sides. Think of when you have to decide if somebody gets your money. What would you to know? What are the things you would have in a red line? This always helps a lot. And yeah, figures are important. Of course, figures important, but figures are not everything. For example, if you do the whole intro, and then in 2 months you say, okay, now I have done my job, I'm leaving. What do you feel? Do you think the banker feels like? Because he's always interested in have long relationships with his counterparts. Yeah. And when you think of when we did this full IT and furniture leasing and stuff, it's more easier if you know the guys on the other side. So it's working more smooth and not so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? I think this is what often gets forgotten. That it's also a
Yeah.
trust business in that sense, for you to give your money to, and for how much.
Yeah, yeah. And then you need the exchange of knowledge, because a banker is doing a lot of different branches. So he has not a deep knowledge. He has something, okay, I know about beds, but I don't know about fire protection of beds and such things. Or if you're talking about the IT industries, when you speak to a banker about setting up an equipment structure for your laptops and mobile phones, everybody calls mobile phone now iPhone. So and this is totally different. What do you need? What do you want? If you're speaking about mobile phones, maybe your banker will think, okay, she will go for an iPhone 15, but you're talking about a Xiaomi for 300 euros and not for 1,000 euros expensive. So you
Okay.
have to make clear what you're talking about, and this is quite important.
You also talked about, well, you kind of, we're going through a lot of different sort of approaches and how you can get financing, how you approach these people. What would be is there a threshold? Because from what I've heard, right, you have, let's say you're starting business, you need 30,000 euros to do something, right? or maybe you are someone who wants to get 25 million euros, do the approaches then kind of change? I mean, I would assume, right, there a certain level of professionalism or history needs to be required to ask for 25 million instead of 30,000. But does the basics of what you're describing, do they change, or does it stay?
No, the basics are still the same. You have different efforts on the financial figures. If you apply for 25 million euros, you need different legal standards. For example, your annual statements must be testified and such things. So this is more, let's say, on a production work, but the explanation and the storytelling are still the same. When I was thinking about my huge financings at UniCredit Group, we did billions of euros as loans for some companies. Everything started with the storytelling. If you think about 1 or 1.5 hour bank meeting, you can say the first quarter is storytelling. The next one is you show your financial figures and you explain the banker how he will get his money back. So this means if you open up a hotel, you will earn in the year a revenue from 1 million and you will have an EBIT of 100,000 euros. And when you need 250,000 euros, you can pay it back very comfortably during the next 10 years with interest. So the banker will be fine. And then you use the last part of your session to get questions. Mm-hmm. And this is very complicated because most of your financial partners are not so driven by asking questions, because they still have, if I ask you a question, you will think I did not understand it. So it's also your chance to take over and ask your questions. For example, when you get a loan, everybody is talking about securities, personal guarantees, and all this stuff. And there you can make things clear. For example, no, I don't want to have a personal guarantee. I'm a young dad, I'm a young mom. We have financed our flat or something like this. What about, let's call an insurance? An insurance which take over my personal guarantee. I will pay for it. And if we get struggled, you can use this insurance and then you get your money from the insurance company. And you're safe and have something, let's say like a door to your private life. But this opportunity you have to take over. If everybody say, no, we don't have question, I think it's tricky. The first question is the problem. If somebody is asking the first question, then it runs like a waterfall. But this stupid first question is a nightmare.
So we can ask our own first questions.
Yeah. And I always tried some questions where you rubbish the other side. So, for example, get out of this comfort way. I always ask the people, why should I choose your bank for my financing solution partner? Yeah, and then you will see what happened. Are they convinced that their bank is a good bank and will be a good partner for you? And this is quite interesting. You will see no one has an answer prepared.
We'll use that now. Now on.
Or in interviews, when I apply for a new job, I always ask, why did you choose the company? And once I get a very interesting answer, and this was I have 3 kids, and here I have flexible working hours.
It's honest.
It was honest by her, but it showed me what company it is. So I decided not to take the job.
I mean, yes.
And you learn more from the answers of your bankers, if this is a suitable partner for you, than from the way he behaves. And this is totally interesting. Yeah.
So bankers and people in finance are people after all as well, and and you can throw questions back at them and well,
Yeah.
get feedback as well, right? Because I mean, certain banks can be involved in certain situations where perhaps you and the partnership with them might actually backfire as well, right? That's what people have to not forget.
Yeah. And you have to think of that we have since 20 years this break between credit decision and market and sales in banks. And you will only speak to the salesperson of the bank and not to the credit decision maker. And therefore, you have to train your salesman of the bank that he is talking to the credit decision maker in a correct way.
Oh,
Yeah, because this is a trick. If your sales guy of the bank is convinced by your product, he will speak in a total different way to the people in the back office than when he says, "Okay, this is my fucking job."
all right. So now I have a question. Who takes the decision whether you get financing? Sales
No,
lady or credit lady?
credit lady. So, and you will
Ah.
not speak to her or him, and this is quite interesting. And so you need this salesperson as a speaker for you. I always call them, these are your public relations guy in a bank. Yeah. And this is the way you have to feel comfortable. When you have got the loan, you will get in touch with the back office. But at the first point, banks should be not overwhelmed by feeling good like you as a person, and so they decided to have a 4 eye principle. So the first 2 eyes are your public relations guy, your sales or a customer relationship manager, whatever the bank calls it, and then he has to transmit all your informations to the credit decision maker. And this is sometimes really annoying because when she or her has not the knowledge of your company, she will not transfer it very clear. And you have to think of all bankers shy and fearful pets. So they will make no decision if they feel not comfortable with, and if they cannot answer the question, how will the bank get his money back or its money
Hmm.
back?
Hmm.
So bankers are not risk takers,
Yeah.
even though they're in the risk business.
Yeah, we call them sometimes risk defense system.
Risk defense system.
I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds good though, right? I'm sure some people in 2008 were the opposite of that, and a lot of risk taking happened, and that backfired a little bit for some, you would say. So,
yeah, yeah. And when you think about Lehman, the bankrupt of Lehman Brothers in the United States, and all these things, or I think it's now 1.5 year ago when Silicon Valley Bank in Europe crashed. So you see, banks are not always risk taker at all. Or Credit Suisse is also closed. They are now becoming UBS. So yeah, we have a consolidation in the banking market, and only the huge one survived.
talking about the market trends, maybe kind of a bit away from the sort of the personal pitching to the banks. Um, we at Liberty are trying to sort of put a lot of news together, and there's a lot of different mix, right? Some are positive, some are negative, some are outright panicky, and some are way too optimistic, right? Um, how would you say the banking industry is doing right now, right? We've gone over a COVID period where there's huge money printing going on, and everybody was doing pretty well, right? And now kind of the high interest rates, and everybody's more careful. What's happening next? I mean, right? It's hard to forecast, but give us your opinion.
Yeah, you have to think of that banks are critical infrastructure. So some of the banks are too huge to fail, and this is something which makes this branch unique, because you have their governmental opinions which will save their own banks. If you think of Commerzbank was more already dead, and then the German government decides, okay, we will catch this bank from falling, we will put them under their umbrella, and this will survive. Now Commerzbank is one of the profitable one in the market. So this branch is so totally different from everything. And to be honest, banks know how to earn money. They know how to earn money when the interest are almost zero, and they know how to get money when the interest about 10% high. So banks will get their income. Nevertheless, what happen in the market. And a crisis is good for banks because in crisis, everybody needs loans. So banks will do loans and financing solutions, and the interest will go high. And at the moment, when you compare the real estate market, where the prices were high, and everybody was willing to pay these high prices because the loans has so less interest, almost zero. We are talking about when I financed my flat, we're talking about 1% interest rate. So it was very cheap to get a financing solution for real estate. Now it changed. The prices for the real estate is still high. The rents are on the same level, almost on the same level as the last years, but the interests have gone up. So, and therefore, the rent income is not enough to pay back your credits. And this is why this real estate or developing branch is totally stopped at the moment. And if you ask me from a real estate purpose, I would say that the government will come with a special credit solution for house owner, flat owners. So to bring people in their own house, they will get governmental backed credits with very low interest rates.
Would you
But
say it wouldn't catch up, right? So that we have right this interest rates, they're pretty high. We're also going to be talking about right in the news section of our podcast about sort of the capacity of populations to spend, and that's kind of decreasing to some extent, right? Inflation is high, so isn't there maybe a delayed effect that is going to show up in pricing of the real estate, and maybe the market will kind of balance itself out, right? High prices for interest or for low, for bank loans, and then basically lower prices of real estate with time.
no, I don't think such a solution will come because the market always balances it itself, and the price or the new prices in the houses are still in the price. So if you see the market is changing, you see it 1 year above in the prices, and the interest rates are always run above. So therefore, I don't think we will see increasing prices for real estate. I think they now will stabilize for the next 1 or 2 years. Nobody will do anything. If you look in Berlin, we see these developing issues which are stopped. Here in Frankfurt, there are also a lot of developing stopped. So, and we are missing flats in the market. Here in Frankfurt, we're missing more than 40,000 flats. I think in Berlin it's a similar figure. And somebody told me in the next 5 years we will miss more than 1 million flats in Germany. So you see, there are not enough offers for real estate. So there will be people who are willing to get high prices because they need a flat. They need a place to live. And this is a system which is not working because you don't have enough offers on the real estate sides. So you will have one or two who are willing, who are able to pay the high prices, and so you don't will get the market balanced out. And this is the reason why somebody talking or asking for a price stop, a price maximum, something like a cap. But I honestly, I don't think this we will see. Think of the rents. In Berlin, this Mietdeckel was discussed so hardly, and I personally know 10 or 12 people who explained me how you can go around it and get out of this issue so that your maximum rent is not working.
Maybe for reference, for those who don't know what happened in Berlin, right? There was you rent maximum set in place, and then the city was basically enforcing rental prices, which was revoked now, right, due to the constitutional case, basically, and right, there was a lot of talk about it. Yeah,
we all had to pay back the low rent. We had to pay back the difference for a year or something. We're paying lower rents, and then we had to pay it back the difference all at once. Remember? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You
You are living in your own flat, or Misha?
I don't know. I'm not sure. No matter what it is, my costs for living have increased because we heavily reliant on gas prices, and in Germany,
Yeah.
unfortunately, so we have a central heating of the area, and there is basically a gas station, and so if whether you're owner or not, your heating prices have basically tripled. So it's like paying rent at this point. But that's another topic. We're slowly running out of time. I think we could do one more question, maybe, Mirjam, from you, and then I would love to hear from you, Yvonne. What would you recommend us in terms of a reading list? We love reading lists in this podcast, and I think it's about time to start asking the people we interview what are they reading now, or what would they recommend to read that is relevant to at least 2024. So, Mirjam, any more questions left?
I do. Of course, I do have one. I mean, right, Yvonne is a bit like my mentor for people who don't know. And I kind of want to ask you what you would advise young career starters, young women especially. What's the advice to give when going into the finance sector?
Believe in yourself. The universe will only let the weights you can carry on. So everything will come to a good end. Don't be feared. It will work out. I need 25 years to get his opinion, but everything will come to a good end.
Thank you. So, how about the reading list?
Wow. I started last year to read The Big Five for Life. Do you know the book already?
Yes.
This book is such great book. It's not a financing or a banker's book. It's more about the story of a guy who figured out what are his big five for life he wants to get, and then anything else he put in place to get this big five for life. And I really like it because I was working or gambling with how I want to live the next 24 months. And so I struggled a little bit with my big five for life. I only have four.
Four for life?
Yeah.
Wait, which one you don't?
I don't find out number five because I think it's a world habit to ask for freedom in the world. So it's not my big five for life at last. I think it's something we should all afford. But I was trying to figure out these things, and this made also my job decision clearer. What do I want? And so I can recommend everybody to read this book because it's so easy to read and it's so funny. And therefore, I would say go for it. And typical as a banker or a finance person, you also have to read Financial Times. But think of news are printed in a newspaper or old news.
It's true. You already should know what you should know before they're printed, huh?
Yeah,
but for that you need really good connections. So
yeah, you should know before it's printed because one of the journalists told me, "Hey, Yvonne, when it's printed, it's old news."
I think on that note we can conclude this interview, and obviously also read the Liberty newsletter and listen to our podcast because we provide the freshest of them possible. So, Ivana, thank you very much for coming. I think it was definitely a pretty good insight, especially for those outside the sector. Any last words? Thank you.
Thank you.